Welcome to Minhag Dirigo, a Jewish Maine podcast. Tonight is our Passover extravaganza, for all the more that really means. But I asked for folks to join me and talk about their favorite Passover experiences. So I'm joined tonight by Daniel Fishman, who I met working for the Gary Johnson campaign 10 years ago. He ran for public office as a libertarian in the state of Massachusetts. A great guy. And then I'm joined by Sam Rappaport, who hails from one of the older Bangor, Maine Jewish families, and he shares memories of Sederim Sederim past in Bangor, Maine. Finally, we have a special mystery guest, and it's not Eliyahu Hanavi. Before we get to our guests, if you know me, one of the many hats I wear is that of a multi-instrumentalist musician and songwriter. My band, the Schmutz Family Gefelte Revival Band, released a Passover song titled Break the Sea. We're really proud of it. It's a lot of fun. So let's give that a listen here in a bit. It's available to download on SoundCloud. We'll post a link on the YouTube channel and in our website and on our social media stuff. Great song. All we ask is that if you're so inclined, give a donation to Mazon, a Jewish response to hunger, especially in honor of the Passover holiday. Let those who are hungry come and eat. So let's give this a listen.
Names erased, but not our own. Dear leader's voice in every chain, but silence never broke the pain. Dust in lungs and blood in sand. Hope was outlawed in this land, but somewhere in the midnight cry, a spark refused to die. We were counting every scar like constellations in the dark. Then a voice cut through the fear. You don't belong here. We will break the sea. We will cross the line. No more waiting for a better time. From the fire to the rising tide, we are done with living terrified. Let the waters crash behind our past. Let the chains fall off at last. If freedom's just a breath away, then tonight we break the sea. Blood on doors and truth in fists. Every plague they can't dismiss. Empire trembling, cracked in two. Every lie exposed as truth. We walked out with nothing left but memory and borrowed breath. And every step into unknown was one step closer home. They said, turn back, you'll never last. But we buried that in the past. Now the edge is drawing near. No more fear here. We will break the sea. We will cross the line. No more waiting for a better time. From the fire to the rising tide, we are done with living terrified. Let the waters crash behind our past. Let the chains fall off at last. If freedom's just a breath away, then tonight we break the sea. Not just then, right now. Not just them, us now. Every system built on backs and bones. Every exile searching for a home. Say it loud, say it clear. Freedom thrives when we bring it here. We will break the sea, we will cross the line.
And now my friend Dan Fishman. There it is.
So my grandmother was one of nine daughters. Her mother had taken all nine daughters to the market that day. It was a small agricultural town in Ukraine. And they came back, and her father wasn't there. And the neighbor said the police came and got him. They went down to the police station, and he was just gone. He was disappeared, never to be heard from again. So my great grandmother, Bella Gittel, said, "We can't stay." I tried to figure out what she could do. She's like, "I can't take all nine daughters at once. We just don't have the means, the resources. Four of the daughters are old enough that they can stay here, they can work, etc." So she took five youngest daughters, came to the United States, and then from the United States, they were able to get the rest of the daughters over. And an interesting story, they were actually blocked from immigrating, and somehow Henry Cabot Lodge, who was famously anti-Semitic, intervened on their behalf. And to give him a little bit of credit, he was broader than just anti-Semitic. All Eastern Europeans, he thought, shouldn't be in the United States. But for some reason, he intervened for them to come in. And that was how we got here. I got involved in politics because of that. In 2011, when Barack Obama signed the National Defense Authorization Act, saying that without a warrant, without probable cause, the police could seize you and hold you just under suspicion of terrorism. I'm like, that goes to my family's personal history. What can I do about that? I ran for, I thought about it a little bit, and I'm like, I can speak to the issue. I think probably 2 minutes into the interview, you can say, "Oh yeah, Dan can talk." So I decided that I would run for Congress. It was a federal issue, and the Republican who ran in my district in Massachusetts 6 was the guy who was running at the time was a real horse's ass. However, it ended up he dropped out. And then it became a typical Massachusetts race. The Republican who was running, a guy named Richard Tassay, who had been Charlie Baker's lieutenant governor candidate. Richard Tassay is an out married gay man who is pro-choice. So a Massachusetts Republican. The Democrat, John Tierney, had been in office for 9 terms, and his wife had just served 30 days in jail from money laundering, which is a badge of honor if you're a Democrat in Massachusetts. And so I jumped into that race. The very first debate that they had, the Democrats scheduled a debate, and it was at the Lynn Senior Center, and it was about Medicare. And to say is like, I'm not going to go to that. I mean, it's not a fair debate. I'm just going to be booed by the crowd, etc. So Tierney invited me, and I accepted. And I was on the ballot as a Libertarian candidate. I accepted, got on the ballot, and then went to the debate. Massachusetts debates are crazy. There's a huge crowd outside, people with signs, and even though Richard Tassay wasn't there, there's a lot of Republicans with signs, a lot of Democrats with signs, nobody with signs for me. But I walk in there, and I've been sweating it up to this point. I mean, here I am, I'm a software engineer. What do I know about Medicaid and Medicare?
Right.
Right? I mean, I went and I did some research. I talked to my parents, who were of an age that they knew more about it, used the internet, get into the debate. And 2 questions in, it becomes apparent I am the subject matter expert in the room. Tierney's there. He looks great. He looks like a politician. He's like 6'2", and he has phenomenal hair. But at one point in time, I'm like, Medicaid Part D covers prescription drugs. He's like, "Is that true?" I'm like, "Yes, Congressman, that's true. That is what Medicaid Part D does." So then, I ended up getting 4.5%, but the margin of victory was like 4,000 votes. And so I got the lovely description of spoiler. Howie Carr had me on his show, had a lot of conservatives come in and rip me up for ruining the race because the Republicans really thought Richard Say was going to win. It was a very close race. But Bill Weld wrote me a personal note. He said, Dan, I thought you were the best candidate in the race. I would have voted for you if I lived in your district. And I mean, his handwritten note, right? Who does that anymore? And so
Right.
I wrote him back, and we became pen pals, corresponding in the old-fashioned way. And then when he got nominated for, and I didn't think I would be in politics again. That was it. Then when he got the vice presidential nod, he asked me if I would be his guy. He's like, Dan, I don't know the libertarians, etc. And I'm like, I don't think I'm the guy you want. I'm like, you want somebody who understands politics. And his guy, when he said his guy, he wanted me to be senior staff for the Johnson Weld campaign and his guy. I'm like, I have a job, et cetera, et cetera. He asked me a second time, and the third time he said, if you don't take the job, I'm going to give it to, and he named a person who I knew was a complete idiot. And I'm like, you're threatening me now. Because if there's one thing that as Jews we can't stand, it's to know that a job will be done poorly. And so I talked to my boss, who was very generous. He said, I don't want to lose you, Dan. I will give you the next 4 months. If you work 10 hours in the office, I'll still pay you full time. I'm like, that's a great deal. Thank you. He's like, it's my bit for democracy. He's like, and I also hate John Tierney, who was a Democrat who had won the race. So that was how you and I ended up meeting, was because I came to Maine with Bill Weld. And I'm sorry I don't remember it better, but I do remember traveling around with Governor, who is still a personal friend.
It's funny. That campaign was my first foray into libertarian anything. Until that point, as a matter of fact, I dropped out of a state house race in Pennsylvania to move to Maine. At which point, Jeremy Carrigan,
Yeah,
another
our
Jewish
mutual friend.
libertarian, yeah, he said, "Hey, why don't you come be Gary Johnson's director for Jewish outreach?" And I was like, well, what's this libertarian thing? All I know is that they want old ladies to eat cat food or something. And lo
Yep.
and behold,
And they
it
hate
was,
roads.
yeah, roads. Oh my gosh, and any kind of infrastructure spending, and they were. But what I found was a more natural political home than anywhere I'd ever been, because here were where all the classical liberals had gone, and it was eye opening, and I was surprised by. Well, I shouldn't be surprised because of Murray Rothbard or
Right.
Mises, and but I was surprised by how many Jewish libertarians I met, and no libertarian was ever what I thought they would be until the Mises caucus came along.
Right.
It
Yeah.
was.
Well, there is an interesting sort of self-reliant parallel, I think, between Judaism and libertarianism,
Yeah.
where, there's an idea that, you have to be responsible for yourself. I was just so we had a bar mitzvah last weekend in Houston. I was down with my dad. I got to do an aliyah with him, which was fantastic. But we had the classic conversation. My sister uh, is very afraid right now as a Jewish person, and like to the point. I mean, I think she's going too far, but she wants her kids to change their last name,
Ooh.
which is Goldberg. I don't even think it's that bad, but she's just really afraid. And I say this as she is a very visible senior public person. She runs MD Anderson, the big hospital in Houston. Um, and I talked to her about it. I'm like, this is what they mean when they say the chosen people. We're not the chosen people that we get, to be first in line or anything like that. It means that we're the ones who are called upon to stand up. That we are the ones who are called upon to be visible when there is injustice in the world. And it's why they always come after us first, right? Because every tyrant knows the Jews will not submit.
Yeah.
And here we are. Here we are in another situation where, anti-Semitism is on the rise as tyrants' desire to rule is on the rise. Those things go hand in hand. And so this is what we're called to do. That's what it means to be the chosen people. And it sucks sometimes, but
It button hooks really neatly with the Passover story, because here we are.
yep.
I don't think we should ever take too literally that we would still be slaves in Egypt if not for that event. But that chain of causality. You know, if we wouldn't have left Egypt, we wouldn't have become a people of a covenant, and we wouldn't have, uh,
Yep.
you know, wouldn't have ended up in the Levant. You know, that part of that part of the Middle
Sure.
East. And eventually we wouldn't have been expelled into Europe. And
Right. Exactly.
and there, I I just feel like whatever our peoplehood was set in motion at that start, and I think that the themes of freedom really tie in very nicely with how we met, uh, and
Yep.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah. I
and
mean, it is. I think about that part a lot because it's, the best thing about it, right, is that, well, maybe not the best. There's a million best things, and we can talk about gefilte fish later on and other Passover things. But the thing that I always remembered was next year in Jerusalem. And my dad is born in 1937, so before the state of Israel. Obviously, the Zionist movement's going on, stuff like that. But he also he grew up in an Orthodox family, um, so he went to Hebrew school. And another fascinating conversation. So he does a lot of Torah study now, and he talked about the fact that as a child, when you go to Hebrew school, they don't let you read the Torah. He said, and I didn't really understand that until, you know, as I've gotten really into Torah study now. Torah is very complicated. He's like, you're probably not prepared as an 8-year old to hear these messages and really be able to understand them without a lot of people talking to you and saying, let's sit down and study it, explain it. And I thought that was a very interesting statement because for a guy who was born and in Lynn, he experienced real anti-Semitism. In the 40s, was that's just the way the country was then, and who knows, maybe it's a little bit now. But for him to have gone from the next year in Jerusalem to uh, 15, 20 years ago, he and my mom did a long trip to Israel where they got to do everything that he had ever wanted to do. And it was a nice thing for my mom too. So my mother's father was Jewish. Her mother was not. She did not have a bar mitzvah until she was 43 years old, a bat mitzvah, until she was 43 years old. But she got really into it, really learned Hebrew, and then started teaching Hebrew, which I know can be controversial. We were a Reform synagogue, but she started teaching Hebrew, and then became the librarian for the largest congregation in Houston. And so, really had this other very interesting Jewish journey that, when they went to Israel together, it was really meaningful for both of them. And so the Passover thing where we say next year in Jerusalem, uh, even though now Jerusalem is, of course, part of Israel, I think it's still a nice statement for all of us to say, and it doesn't mean Jerusalem physically, right? It means Jerusalem in our hearts. The idea that we can embrace, again, what I say, so Tikkun Olam, fixing the broken world, the chosen people part of what we're supposed to do. And that hits everybody, Reform, conservative, Orthodox, Haredi, whoever you are. I think that's the part that we get. And Passover, is sort of the beginning of that.
yeah, it really is. It's not the favorite household uh, holiday because of all the rigmarole with the food and that, and
Sure.
nobody like that's Jewish loves matzah. I mean,
Wait, wait a minute. So first of all, toffee covered matzah will
uh,
change your life.
yeah, yeah, that
Um,
is true.
but I loved, I mean, the harosa sandwiches, right? With the horseradish, that symbolic thing of building the pyramids, that is just amazing to me.
I love
Uh,
it.
yeah,
I It's my favorite holiday. Even with
yep,
all the rigmarole, it's more of a pressure on the people that
sure,
like
sure,
I could
sure.
ruin cereal, so Leah does the cooking, and
That's
so
fair.
so it's a lot for her, and so I appreciate that. But the themes of the holiday to me are just the best of all of them. you know, ironically, my other favorite holiday is Yom Kippur, not because the fact I just love the liturgy and
Yeah.
it's so poetic. But this is, I feel like, we go into Passover and most times we talk about nuts, the food for 8 days, yikes.
Yeah.
But the themes of it are you know it's just chef's kiss as far as the
Yeah.
thematic
I,
holidays
I
go.
mean, it's everything you want in a sweeping story.
Yeah.
And I will say, you know, I am aware of the archaeological history. There is no real evidence of a mass migration from Egypt into Canaan.
Yeah.
I don't care. I think that the story part of it is about, and we talked about this too, as you might expect at a bar mitzvah. There's plenty of religious conversations. There is a reading my dad was telling me because we're right up to there now that says that God did not part the Red Sea until some of the Israelis tried to walk through it in the beginning, and it was sort of I need you to take the first step before I'll intervene. And he talked about that, about how there's a lot of sort of this, and I'll quantify my Judaism in that, I had a bar mitzvah. Uh, I wasn't even a high holiday person. Every now and then I would go. What I did really like to do was to host a Seder for the Goyim. That was,
Yeah.
I loved doing that. I had a really nice set of Haggadahs and sort of showing them the traditions and everything. And I love to make a leg of lamb. So
Oh yeah.
that
Yeah.
was fantastic. Right. I mean, it's so rare to say, I'm going to get my own shank bone and then we're going to eat the rest of the meal. And I love dipping parsley in salt water. I like everything about it. And I should ask you about this. Are you an orange on the Passover plate family?
We are not. And it's not
Have
because
you
we're
ever
not.
heard of this?
Yeah, the
Okay.
Susan Schechter
Yeah.
and uh, the or is it Heschel? I Susan Heschel. I
Yeah.
can't remember, but I do know it's a feminist symbol, and it's not that we're not a feminist household,
Sure,
or
sure, sure.
it's just for us. We're kind of purists when it comes
Yes. No,
to
no,
the
no. Listen, I totally get it. That is
yeah
only if you are, even 10% strict, you wouldn't have an orange on the table.
yeah.
And
We do Miriam's
the
cup. That's
yeah, exactly. Well, and there's the background story that most people know isn't actually true. The part of where it says where some rabbi had said, a woman belongs uh, on the bima as much as an orange belongs on the Passover plate.
yeah.
That is the story that everybody says. That never happened. That's just the story that grew in it. It is actually just a symbol of, oppressed people, not just women. We view it to be LGBT and other people as well. But I mean, there's certainly room on the plate for plenty of things. So we've always been an orange on the plate person. And yeah, Passover is probably my favorite holiday too, because of the real social aspect of it.
Yeah.
The high holidays, they're great. I mean, obviously Purim, you get the carnival. That's pretty awesome too.
Yeah.
But for Passover, and this is sort of lead into my first Passover story, and I think this has a lot to do with why it's such a big deal to me. We moved to Galveston, Texas in 1972, uh, at the end of 72. And so Passover 73, I'm 6 years old. My brother is 4 years old. And for the first night, the first Seder, they do it at the temple. And so there's, 100 people there. Tables are spread out. Galveston has a fascinating and very surprising Jewish history, which I might talk about a little bit later. But the we're there, and I'd done a couple Seders with my grandparents back in Massachusetts, but I'd never done one with this many people all at the same time. And I am only 6 years old. And they get to the Afikoman part, and Rabbi Stahl gets up there and he says, "Children, we cannot resume the service until the Afikoman is found. And it's hidden somewhere in either the library, the music room, or my office. Those are the three rooms you can go to. Uh, he said, and whoever finds it, we can't resume the service until you bring it back. So find it and bring it back to us right away. The children get ready to go. My mother grabs my arm and says, "You have to take your brother with you." I'm like, "He's 4 years old. He's so slow. Why do I want to take my brother with me?" She's like, "You have to." So we go, and my brother's name is Jeremy, and I hold his hand until we're out of sight, and then I let it go and I run. We go and we search everywhere. But for whatever reason, Jeremy, my brother, 4 years old, comes into the music room, which everybody else has abandoned, and sees something because of his height, and it's the afikoman. And he comes walking out, and he's got it in his hand. I'm like, "Jeremy, give me the afikoman. I'll take it back there as fast as we can." And he's like, "No." Even then, he was smart. And so we walk into the room together, into the big auditorium where everybody's eating, and I yell, "Jeremy found the afikoman!" And Rabbi Stahl calls out, he's like, "Jeremy, we need the afikoman. I've got $1 right here as your reward for finding the afikoman. Bring it up to me." And he starts walking up, and he gets about halfway there, and Sly Slarsky, one of the old patriarchs of the temple, reaches out with his arm, tattoo right here, grabs him, and he says, "Kid, you're Jewish. Don't take the first offer. They can't start it until you give the afikoman back." And he's like, "I'll also throw in $1 for the afikoman to be returned. Who else has got $1 for this kid?" Raised $20. And so that was Jeremy returned the afikoman. He got $20, which in 1972, that was a fair bit of money.
Yeah.
And that is, so young. My favorite Passover story. It's got everything in it. And I always
Yeah,
I
the
think
younger
about
brother
that
getting
about
the inheritance first kind of thing almost is there. And
well, also, the fact that every stereotype about Jews is actually something that we sort of embrace and make fun of, right? I mean,
yeah.
one of my favorite things when I meet a new Jew is to say, I wait 10 minutes, but then I want to hear their favorite Jewish joke. And let me ask you, do you have a good Jewish joke, one that you like to tell to other Jews?
Yeah. Mine are always terrible, so I don't
All right.
I wouldn't tell it on my podcast.
I,
Kind of thing.
I'll tell one. It's a classic. You've probably heard it before. A Jewish man is on a cruise. He falls overboard, gets to a desert island. 5 years later, he's rescued, and he's built 3 buildings. And the people are like, "What did you do?" He's like, "Well, this is my house, and these are 2 temples." They're like, "Why did you build 2 temples?" He's like, "Nobody good goes to that one."
Right. Oh, I do have one that I can tell.
All right.
Uh, I everybody was wondering when I joined the army why I wanted to be a paratrooper.
Mhm.
Most people, good Jewish kids don't grow up to be
Sure.
American paratroopers, right? And what I told them was I heard the song "Gold Mine in the Sky." There's a gold mine in the sky.
Wow.
It's terrible. But yeah, that's one of the tamer ones. Most of the ones that I tell are the wrong,
Sure, sure,
absolute
sure.
wrong. But
Now, if I can ask you just quickly, you were a chaplain, right?
no, I was a designated, what is it called? Distinctive religious group leader. Uh,
Gotcha.
the Army especially has a program because there's never enough minority group chaplains. So
Sure.
they will, and the Mormons don't have chaplains at all. So what they'll let you do is they'll pick lay people and you get endorsed by the same people that endorse rabbis, these ecclesiastical endorsers will
Right.
endorse a lay leader program, and then you can coordinate services where there's no, for instance, a rabbinical chaplain. I did that
Right.
for 17 years. I
Wow.
led seders overseas, uh, led seders at training posts down south, made sure that soldiers had kosher food,
Yep.
and for the time that I was a Chabadnik, made sure they had to fill in. So
It's
it
funny.
was it
What?
was a good gig.
So let me, and I know it's your podcast, but right again, I'm demonstrating my Judaism by asking questions.
Yeah.
Um, eh, did you were kosher meals used for halal for any of the Muslim soldiers? Were you involved
So
in that at all?
yeah, so there was a period of time, and I don't think it's the case today. I think everything's discreetly labeled in the Defense Logistics Agency system now.
Yeah.
And I can speak to this because I was a logistician for the last 10 years of my career. Uh,
Okay.
they did for a while have a kosher meal that also bore the halal certification. Our ritual slaughter requirements,
Right.
our kosher slaughter is more stringent than halal,
Yes.
so they can. I guess some hadiths has said that you can use uh, kosher
Yes.
food as in substitute for halal. I don't know if that's the same case today because there's so much
It,
animosity religiously, but um,
well, so I can tell you, so the company that I work for, my main gig, Real Report, I'm just going to plug it on the show. But they, the CEO and COO live in Israel. And at one point in time, we talked about buying something for, an end of the year present for the people in the staff who were in Israel. And I'm like, I always send pears to everybody. They're like, it's Israel, so we have to tell you that not all fruit and vegetables are kosher in Israel. I'm like, what?
yeah.
He's like, if you're religious, there's a thing about which crop it is and when it gets, whether it gets tithed or given away or whether or not people can consume it. He's like, it's easier to do something else besides fruit. I'm like, okay, you guys lead me, tell me what it should be. I'm like, is there other stuff? He's like, well, one of the interesting things. And then they talked about the fact, he's like, the Arabs can eat all the kosher food because if it's kosher, it is halal. And there's been lots of ruling on that. We can't eat their stuff. He's like, but it is whatever you want. He said, and then outside of Israel, it's obviously much easier than everything except for meat is kosher. So if you're a vegetarian outside of Israel, you've got it made, which these guys are. Anyway, those are my kosher stories. I don't have any jokes to go with.
Yeah, it's
Any more
uh,
jokes?
I had kosher military food was kind of ruined for me. I did the in the 1990s. One of my last things I did before I came off active duty was the active duty still handled the multinational force observer mission back then. After 9/11, they kind of pushed that one on the guard. So the
Yeah,
National Guard kind of staffs that mission. But back then we did it. We did it for 6 months. Um, and for those 6 months, the only kosher food I could get. Now, mind you, that I was either at South Camp, which is at Sharm el Sheikh, or El Gora, North Camp, which is by El Gora, which is about 10 miles from the 14, 10 miles from the Rafah crossing with
right.
Gaza. The only food I could get that was kosher was cheese tortellini MREs for 6 months. The only kosher
Wow.
food that I could, unless we would go into Israel, which we did pretty often because some of the
Right.
offices were in Tel Aviv. Uh, I that was it. 6 months of cheese tortellini, and
Wow.
I
That's pretty
you could
fierce.
you could find hextured bread in the chow hall, and I do salads. I look the other
Yeah,
way
yeah, yeah.
if it was romaine lettuce, but it was
Yeah. Is
uh,
romaine lettuce not kosher?
uh there's a bug situation that makes it not
Interesting.
kosher. So
I,
sometimes
w-
you
I
have to
was
just really be careful.
I'd never heard that before.
Yeah.
That's I mean, like of course, we're talking with the Israelis. This week we had the whole corn, whether it's okay for Passover or not, and
Ah,
they're generally of the opinion that no, it's not okay. But for me, we always ate corn on Passover. Any legume. We didn't think it
yeah.
was specified. I'm guessing you're not a legume family on Passover.
We so my second daughter is her mother was Sephardic. So we
There,
honor my
wow,
daughter's tradition by eating.
nice, nice.
Even though she doesn't live with us, she's off at college, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's still very important. That's a good reason.
yeah,
And it is. I always talk about the fact that uh, you know, outside of Jews, we seem like a monolith to everybody else.
Yeah, we do.
And you try to explain it like, no, no, that's just the. I mean, right, the famous story, right? You get three Jews together and you get five opinions.
Yeah,
That's sort of where we are. And Passover, that was again one of the things that I loved about Passover is because it's a dinner party, really, right? And you go through all the things, and Dom, sorry, all the 10
yeah,
plagues, and dipping and building the sandwiches and stuff like that. But then there's just lots of chat.
yeah,
And the chatter is what really makes it, or at least for me, made it great. Galveston, where I grew up, was a city of immigrants
yeah.
constantly throughout its history. And that was how Jews had gotten there originally. There's a little bit of a story. There's a famous rabbi in Galveston. Galveston, before the hurricane, I'm assuming everybody knows about, worst disaster in American history, not counting. Uh, Actually, it's worse than
It was worse
9/11.
than yeah,
Yeah,
and Katrina. Was it
yep.
Camille? I can never remember the name of the hurricane,
It's
but
yeah, 6,000 dead in the Galveston hurricane, which I mean, so it's essentially an unnamed storm. They don't have stories then. But before that, Galveston is the biggest port on the Gulf of Mexico. It's bigger than New Orleans, and it's incredibly wealthy. If you're looking for a really interesting place to go on a vacation, Galveston, Texas, in December has this festival called Dickens Evening on the Strand because Galveston was so wealthy. They hired Christopher Wren, the famous architect from London, to come in and design buildings. And so they have a street that looks like it's just out of Victorian London. Everybody dresses up like a character from Dickens, or now the kids dress up in steampunk, but same sort of thing. And they get there, and we have these amazing evenings. Anyway, so Rabbi Henry Cohen said, Galveston is this wonderful place, and we've got a large community here. He's like, but we can do more. So they paid for a person to meet Jews coming off the boat in Ellis Island. What do you want to live in New York for? It's crazy here. Come to Texas. We'll set you up. You like Galveston? You like fine, but no, you know what? If you're a farmer, we'll help you buy farmland out in central Texas where there's nobody except for the Indians. And so there are all these towns in central Texas with German names like Vicksburg and New Braunfels.
Huntsville, yeah.
And it's because all these Jews were sort of funneled there by this organization that ran called the Adelsverein that funneled people through Galveston to central Texas. And so in this weird place, there's this little Jewish community. And I don't
So,
remember why I started telling that story, but
well, it's interesting. My grandmother's cousin, Les Feltzer, moved to Corpus Christi from Pennsylvania
yep,
a long time. And relatively semi-famous if you're of a certain age. He started the first video chains in Texas, video rental
wow,
chains, and had an electronics store, like electronics appliance store called Feltzer's, there for many years. And I guess they founded one of and it's going to be Beth Israel or Bethel because that's every
yeah,
synagogue's name in Corpus
right,
Christi. And I don't know. I got to visit when I went to college in San Marcos, Southwest
Southwest
Texas
Texas,
State.
yeah,
Yeah. And so before it changed its name to Texas State San Marcos, I was the last
yep,
graduating class that was
wow,
Southwest Texas State. And I just fell in love with the Austin Jewish community.
yeah.
I'd live in Texas except for I'm a avid skier and ice fisher, so
Yeah.
Maine naturally appeals
Yeah,
more.
but
But
for ice fishing, you got no hope. It's
yeah,
not so I did my first undergrad at UT Austin, and I also Austin, it's one of the amazing places to go. They say there's four really cool places in the United States: Austin, Berkeley, California, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Cambridge, Massachusetts.
yeah,
And, you know, having spent significant time in all of them except for Minneapolis, I have to say, there is something about like this collection of really hip, amazing music, arts, etc. It's wonderful. It is, it, it is, my wife and I are talking now about retirement. And
It really sneaks up on you. It's
I had the weirdest thing, the weirdest thought. Well, because what happened was I was watching 30 Rock again, and there's a part where Jack, who's 52 on the show, talks about the fact that his child that he's about to have will be he'll be 70 when the kid is 18. And I'm like, wow, I'm 58. I am only 12 years away from being 70. And we do 12 years the back way. So my friends and I play a game called What's Your Turn It Back event, and take your age and subtract it from the year you were born. So project your life forward, backwards, and get a feeling for like what it is. So I'm born in 1967. Uh, 58 years before that is 1909. Uh, I want to say it's the Wright brothers' first flight. Um, but where it becomes really interesting is that my dad, who's 88, is born in 1937. His turn it back event is the California Gold Rush of 1849.
that's
What made us start thinking about that is that Cleopatra's birthday is closer to today than it is to the building of the Great Pyramid at Giza. And that is an astonishing number. You just realize how brief time is. You don't really, obviously, the closer you get towards the end, the more you feel it. They say the days are long, but the years are short. I mean, it's a really fascinating perspective on time. And I can say, looking at it now, it still seems like there's a lot ahead. And, I think, I think that a lot of times, as you get older, you think to yourself, well, if you were to tell me there's a situation where I wouldn't have to worry about anything anymore, that's not completely unattractive to me because, right, our human existence is filled with worry. But I think, what do I want to do with what's left? And for sure, I want to do a lot more Seder's.
yeah. I tell you, when I retired from the military, it's coming up on 2 years.
Yep,
I kind of thought that I would be anesthetized against the, thinking too hard about what comes, how much time I have left, because I walked with death for 30 years, that kind of
yeah, yeah,
thing.
yeah,
And now, I just, I think it's important to talk about these things as we age. I had my first colonoscopy finally, and it was eye opening because there, we have some precancerous concerns going on down there, and I realized
yep,
how much I want to do yet, and
yep,
that no, I'm not prepared to go at any time because I want to see. I'm not going to pressure my grandchildren because I'm not into the whole natalism aspect of Judaism. I'm not going
sure.
to, but I do want grandchildren, and I want to bounce them on my knee before I exit. And
Well, and I think to experience you, that's
yeah,
the other thing about it is that, we think about that. And my dad talked about this a little bit too, about the gift that you can be in your children's lives because they get to see you going through the shit.
yeah,
And, in many ways, that's the best gift that you can give. And, for your grandchildren too, they hear these stories. I mean, we would hear the story of Grandpa Joe, who had a degree in chemistry from Northeastern University, but couldn't get a job because he was Jewish. He couldn't get a job in any of the big labs.
yeah,
So what do you do? Who do you fall back on? Well, if you know chemistry, you could be a dry cleaner. And he was able to get a loan from the local Jewish community and open up a small shop. And then their patronage kept him in work until, he ended up having a large dry cleaning business. And that thing, obviously, we have this idea that families progress. So, my grandfather was a dry cleaner. My dad was a scientist. I really had sort of the ability to do anything I wanted to. But understanding that whole part of it, and just there's no question, being a grandparent is can be an amazing, rewarding experience. And I think your grandkids are going to learn some pretty amazing things from you.
Yeah, and I hopefully the whole second career rabbi thing. All my cohort in rabbinical school are second career rabbis. Nobody is starting
Interesting.
off, and I think that it's good for us, but it's terrible for this young generation. That they're not getting a whole herd of young rabbis these days, and the new rabbis, we're outnumbering the ones that are coming through that are under the age of 30. Um,
The congregation where we had my sister's son's bar mitzvah, uh, Shema Kalenu, they she talked about the fact she's like, you know, we're among the youngest people here. My nephew got to do four Torah portions. She's like, that wouldn't happen in any of the big synagogues because you'd have to share your bar mitzvah or your bar mitzvah with somebody else. He's like, but for us, this is the thing. And she's like, and they do this other thing too, where they don't have a permanent building. They
oh,
every 2 months they rent a different space, and that's going to be their space, and they're sort of a a congregation without a temple. And she's like, that was cute for like 2 years, but then we kind of got sick of it. And there are other, just like, if you go to the big places in Houston, obviously Houston is an enormous city. She's like, but it's still healthy and packed, but you see a lot of smaller congregations just kind of fading and really being sustained by the older generation who you know are have more money and more disposable income, and so they can keep the temple solvent financially, but they can't bring in the younger people, and it's a real dilemma.
it is. We have one person under the age of 50 now that comes with a regular intensity, but our only growth sector, especially in small outlying Jewish communities like this, is has been conversion, and I'm all in on that. I think that you know, but it's not gonna. You still can't convert enough people in
No.
droves to make up for the birth rates and non-orthodox birth rates and such. And so
Yep.
there will be a point where we'll have to say last one to leave, turn out the lights. But God forbid it be any. I don't think it's going to be this next couple generations at least. But we're living with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing because I often think to myself, and obviously, you know, Reform, conservative, Orthodox, it's a very different thing. But I often think, Reform, what's not to like here, right? I mean, you have an incredible tradition, right? Because the best part of Judaism, I mean, there's a lot of best parts, but one of them is that, almost 6,000 years of recorded history, this huge calendar with amazing events and, a great, a great backstory. I talk about all the time. I'm like, it's hard to find other religions that have as much a tie-in with old historical events. I mean, obviously Christianity can talk about what's happening in Caesar and stuff like that. But you go a lot further back. You talk about when the Greeks occupy Jerusalem and Ptolemy and all that other stuff. That's always fascinating to me. And so then you get that, and you get you know eh, not all Judaism is as progressive, but for me, I'm a big fan of women on the bima, rabbis and cantors, and especially in the way that that helps to grow the religion. One of the things we talk about, there's a woman who is just a phenomenal cantor in Houston, and she's not just a cantor; she also performs as a professional musician. And at her shows, she talks about the fact she's like, I'll be singing Saturday at HCJR, Beth Yeshurun, and stuff like that. That sort of thing I don't know. I can't explain it, but I can't explain it because I'm a person who, goes to temple 3 times a year, 4 times a year.
As long as it was 3 times a year of banging, that's all that it's.
Look, they are, it's funny because I wish I could have gone to a good Purim carnival this year. I mean, I think like every Jew on the planet, I'm a lot more Jewish since October 7th.
Yeah.
And finding a way to go, I went to Shabbat services for about a month after after 10/7 at a local place. And I live in Southern Maryland, and so I mean it's a schlep to get to the temple, and I really was one of the youngest people there, and that's the nature of the thing. And I went, it's nice to get there and say the chamotzi and all that stuff, but it is I don't know. That part, what is the future of Judaism? Uh, I mean, Alan King has that famous line, right? The history of Judaism is they tried to kill us, it didn't work. We decided to have a feast about it.
And now we'll be joined by Sam Rappaport. Well, today it's we're doing our Passover extravaganza, as it were, and joining me on Minhag Dirigo is Sam Rappaport. And Sam, would you like to tell everybody a little bit about your background and where you come from uh, and your relationship to the Jewish community and all that in Maine, all that stuff?
Sure. Yeah. All right. Hey, thanks. Hi, I'm Sam Rappaport. I'm from Bangor, Maine. I'm one of the Bangor Rappaports, if that rings a bell. Um, and yeah, I work in live event work, and uh, these days I'm working on a modified Haggadah to make it friendly to all ages at our Seder. Um, and yeah, you may remember me from years and years ago. And to you, I say hello.
So yeah, your family's name is on the very door of our shul. So it's always good to have, Billy Miller, the esteemed Billy Miller, is always very happy to see any of the Rappaports come
Oh
through the
yeah,
door. So it's
yeah.
you love those. That's one of the coolest things about living in a town like Bangor is that every name has an associated history, and we're all still so connected to that. My where I grew up, everybody's from New Jersey now, even, and nobody remembers the old family's names, if you will. So it's exciting. Uh, so you have a Passover story.
Yeah, I got a few. I've lived through a few Passovers too.
Really?
Chalk up some stuff. Yeah. Um, and well, my mom told me a recent story. I was too young to witness this firsthand, but um, she told me recently a story that happened a long time ago, and that was we must have finished. It must have been during benching or something, uh, and my father had to like run out to grab. I don't- I'm not sure what he had to go and get, but it was like a quick run to a store or something. And or maybe he was just going to the car. Yeah, that's it. That's the ticket. Let's say he was going to his car. And uh we were then going to the door for Eliyahu, and he hadn't come back yet. And it was just a spooky, okay, there's the missing man. Come to find out, he had slipped on the ice coming back to the car, just onto the porch, and uh, had a contusion. Poor guy.
Oh no.
So we brought a little bit extra in there with Elijah. Um, yeah, telling it it's not as funny as I think she thought it was, but all right. Anyway, that was one thing.
Well, how long was he out there before you guys? Was it a pretty good amount of time, or?
It sounds like it. Yeah, it had been like 20 minutes. It was like, this is too long. Like, there's no way that he got lost or something. Um, but if you ask me, the 2-year-old I was at the time, I just thought it was, oh, like, oh, this is part of it. We find an Afikoman, dad goes missing for 20 minutes. It's a big old peekaboo. Uh,
Well,
That would have been my spin.
we could blame Elijah for not showing up. I mean, if he had showed up, he would have found your dad, and it would have all been all right.
Honestly, and who's to say he wasn't keeping my dad company? He's like, "Oh my God, I can't rush inside. There's wine at the next house. You need some company." I'm gonna take that spin.
Oh, that's great. Oh man. Well, hopefully your other stories don't involve bodily injury to anybody, but I mean, if they
No,
do,
no, mostly just morale. No. I mean, the I learned about hustle from both hustle and like test pressure from trying to find the Afikoman. We have pocketed doors, so it's easy to make sure nobody's looking at stuff. But wow, it gets high pressure, high stakes very quickly. Um, Not just for the competitive me first, but for the negotiation afterwards. Uh, Once I got old enough to realize what was going on, I realized that my brother and my Zadie had like a business shorthand, and we're like in a Glenn Gary closing situation. And I'm like, oh my God, so learned a thing or two about how to navigate the dollar just to finish a dinner.
the Afikoman is weak. That's no, that's fantastic. Did they so you guys negotiate like any good not that we want to reinforce stereotypes, but this it's surprisingly interestingly how common one of our earliest lessons is to negotiate the ransom for the Afikoman, and it's
Yeah,
never take the first offer is a recurring theme. It's- oh
that was a good school for it. Um, and not so much a story, but just sort of like the affect. I think everybody that runs their Seder has their own flair to it, their own melodies to it. The reoccurring almost like uh, interactive showmanship that goes with it. Um, and ours has really grown uh, over the years, and all the conjecture that comes with it, and not just reading what's on the page, but having a good discussion about how things have grown beyond the page and trying to weave in almost little sermons here and there. Um, for someone who is all about the sources of it becomes a quick while before we get to eating because we're so into it. But then you get younger kids in there too, and it's like, all right, let's keep the melodies going.
yeah,
Let's let's have finger puppets for the plagues. So there's as many accoutrements for the Seder and whatnot as there is on the table. There's a lot of toys too.
yeah. Do you, well, and since you're in live events, I imagine that you've got to have access to pyrotechnics and smoke machines. I mean, have you considered introducing those to your Seder? I mean,
Uh, I mean, for fear of like breaking the Yentov, I love a good Rube Goldberg machine, and if you take that aspect as like a modern was it Blech? Yeah. So if I wave my hand or something, and that creates enough wind propulsion to then make sure that the lights are going a little bit brighter, and uh, you know, there could be some fun had to that. Maybe like a Passover version of Mousetrap.
oh, that would be I mean, if you could figure out a way for like, the already lit flame to somehow touch the, it could be pretty exciting. I don't know. I
Yeah, I think
do.
of Job in Arrested Development for the Eliyahu thing. Yeah, make the boat disappear.
Uh, I guess how often? One of the things that's new to me, and I say this as a Pennsylvania kid, is the frequency of snow on Passover. How often in your life would you say that you've had a white Passover? It's
I bet it's at least a third. We always have like one last April storm, and depending where the holiday falls in this, pace of the month. Um, and given the story from the top, I mean, it was definitely freezing then. So,
yeah, if somebody slipped
um,
on ice, right? It's
yeah, yeah. And
oh,
yeah, that creates a different sort of desert scape, wandering in the desert, wandering in the tundra. You know, if if it was indeed the tundra they were wandering through, they wouldn't have to worry about parting the sea because it would probably be frozen over.
It's true. Then their problem would be bears, just bears
Yeah. Yeah.
stampeding caribou. I ought to have such problems. Yeah, it's funny. I was stationed in Alaska for some of my active duty years in the Army, and I think that was before we moved to Maine. That was the only time I've ever seen snow on Passover. So it's still very, yeah. I think we're expecting 3 to 6 inches in Bangor for Passover this year, or at least the second day of the
You're
Chag.
you're kidding
And
me.
yeah, I am. I'm stoked, but I'm also kind of annoyed that I'm probably gonna have to break down and do snow removal at some point.
Yeah.
So,
That feels on the nose for an April Fool's holiday.
oh, it does. Oh gosh.
Uh, yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you joining me for this. Yeah, are you guys doing anything fun this year for your Seder? Just chilling with family?
Chilling with family. Yeah. The so I've been leading it. Mom's been cooking up a storm. And we get the Rappaports together. Um, I'm trying to really be cognizant of attention spans. Uh, so for the kids in particular, 2 and 3, um, they're already singing and catching melodies, and if they can just muckle on to the themes the way that I did when I was younger, I mean, it's a favorite holiday for a reason, personally.
Yeah,
And so it's like, all right, there's no way they're gonna make it all the way to the songs at the end. Let's move this around.
yeah.
Let's drop some some gems towards the beginning. Not that it all isn't good. It's
No,
all good.
we abide by Rabbi Gamliel in the household, and if we haven't talked about the 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 Pesach, the matzah, and the maror, then we're not done. So we front load that just so the kids don't. We fulfilled our obligation before the children run away.
There you go. That makes me think, um, whenever if I ever go to a restaurant, I'm like thoroughly studying the menu. And I wonder if that trait was picked up from the precision of going through the Haggadah and like, no, 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 everything needs its own attention. For better or for worse, I like those details.
Yeah, if they thankfully thankfully the restaurant menu doesn't have like that midrash in it that so I at least I haven't found one yet. I mean, maybe there is one out there, but if I
Gluten
ever find him,
free,
yeah.
vegan, like that's as far as you get.
Yeah, and then you get my father was kidnapped by an Aramean or something. Then you know that you've got the wrong menu going on.
There you
Well,
go.
I thank you so much for joining me. This is the kind of stuff that makes this Passover, holiday so awesome. Is the family connections. I don't think there's a holiday, well, maybe Hanukkah, maybe Purim, but definitely Passover. It almost requires family participation, and that's what makes it such a great holiday.
No kidding. Yeah, thanks. It's cool to get to talk about it. And this feels like we're pre-gaming Passover, so it's good to hype it ahead of time.
Yeah, yeah. Do it if you're not going to do it. Get a Seder. Go to a Seder. We got one in Bangor, two in Bangor. So if people are looking for one, come to there. I'm sure you got them down in Portland all over the place. So yeah, goodness, yeah, best holiday ever. Well, thank you, and Chag Sameach.
All right. Take care. Thank you.
Bye. And finally, we have our mystery guest. Well, welcome back to our last segment of our Passover extravaganza. And joining me on Minhag Dirigo is my daughter, Nezzy, who's 11 and in fifth grade. So, Nezzy, what is your favorite part of Passover?
The matzah.
The matzah? What? Oh, wait, why? How could somebody possibly like matzah, Nezzy? Come on.
Like, brain fart.
Okay, brain fart, go on.
My mom makes this thing called matzah pizza, basically she puts pizza ingredients on a piece of matzah, like cheese and tomato stuff, and it tastes like pizza but on matzah.
So that's your favorite part. So, Nez, what about the Passover story really resonates with you?
I wish I could split the ocean.
You, so the splitting of the ocean is your favorite part of the Passover story?
Yeah, just like whoosh.
Well, it would be a really useful skill, wouldn't it? I could imagine it would make fishing a lot easier.
Yeah.
So, I feel as a father and an aspiring rabbi, I have a responsibility to teach you the Passover story year to year. So, I'm gonna poll you, and I'm gonna demonstrate to the listening public just how effective a teacher I am as your father, who has been leading all the Passover seders you've ever been to in your life.
Okay.
So first thing, what is the Passover?
It's a holiday celebrating when we freed ourselves from the Egyptians.
Or when God freed us from the Egyptians, right?
Yeah.
So what is the shank bone on the Seder plate? What does that represent?
Sheep.
Yeah, sheep. What do we do with that sheep or the lamb? What do we do with it?
We use its blood to paint over the doorway.
Yeah, close enough. Good. The second one. What is the matzah? What is the significance of matzah?
It's they couldn't make the bread rise when they were leaving Egypt, so they put it on their backs.
And so they left in haste, and we eat it to this day to remember that it's bread. It's both the bread of affliction and freedom, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Finally, what is the significance of the maror? It's the bitter herbs. What do they symbolize?
Tears?
The tears, yes, the tears of the Jews who were enslaved by Pharaoh. Man, see, I can do this. Nezzy, is there anything you'd like to tell the listeners of, let's see here, of Minhag Dirigo, our podcast? Is there anything you'd like to tell them about Passover this year? Like maybe where they can go if they're looking for a Seder?
No, but I know you can't eat wheat or anything.
Oh yeah, you're telling them they can't eat chametz, right? How about tell them to go to Congregation Beth Israel in Bangor, Maine?
If you want to go to the Seder, you could go to Congregation Beth Israel in Bangor, Maine.
Contact our office. It's not too late to get in. We'd love to have you. And Chag Sameach.
Bye.
Bye.
I'm going now.
Well, thank you for joining us tonight. I love Pesach. I think it's one of our most enduring holidays because it's really the true starting point for the Jewish story that's uniquely ours. Two other faiths lay claim to Avraham. My teacher, Rabbi Joshua Kahan, says not to take too literally that we would still be slaves in Egypt, but still see it as the first move towards our peoplehood. It's our superhero origin story. If we wouldn't have been freed from Egypt, we wouldn't have stood before Sinai. And if we wouldn't have stood before Sinai, we wouldn't have become a people of a covenant and laws. And if we didn't have a covenant and laws, we wouldn't have a land. Chad Gad Ya, Chad Gad Ya. Yeah. We earnestly wish you and your families a very happy and kosher Pesach. Good evening.